What is the impersonal passive and how can you use it effectively in English? Find out in this week's episode of
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Welcome. I'm Reza.
And I'm Craig.
With over 45 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level.
Yes, we're here to help you grow your grammar, vocalize your vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation. How are you, Reza?
I'm very well today, Craig. I'm enjoying the weather. It's cold, but it's sunny. It's crisp. There's a nice blue sky, but it's cold, but the sun's shining. It's possibly my favorite type of weather. What about you?
I agree. I love this time of year when it's not the intense heat of the summer, but it's very sunny and not too hot. It's fantastic.
Craig, I believe that we've got a 5-star review on iTunes.
Yes, we have. And thank you to Silviti from Spain, who wrote, Me parece un programa súper ameno y didáctico. Seguid por favor con los episodios. Me los pongo en el coche y aprendo un montón. Thank you very much for your 5-star review. And to remind you, why not multitask with this podcast? You don't need to sit in front of the computer or listening to your mobile phone in a chair. You can walk the dog and learn some English. You can clean your flat, work out in the gym to get in shape, and commute, which means to travel from outside the city to the centre. You can commute by bus, by train, by car, and listen to this podcast to improve your English. So multitask with us and get better.
Yes, I think it's particularly useful for walking your dog, as you say. And why not let your dog listen too? That reminds me, a big hello to Coco, who's a regular listener of our podcast. Thank you very much for Coco listening.
We have an audio message today from Xavi from Tarragona. And I really like this question. It's an interesting question. Let's see what you think, Reza.
Hello, Craig. Hello, Reza. I'm Xavi from Tarragona. I have a question for you. It's a silly question, maybe. It's clear that when you say yellow lemon tree, you are saying that there are a tree that have yellow lemons. But how do you say if you want to say that the tree is yellow? I want that you answer this question. It's possible. Thank you, and good job with the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavi. I love that question. I'm not too sure about that. I have some ideas on stress, but what do you think, Reza?
Xavi, what a great question. You've really got us thinking. I think I know what you mean, but I may be wrong. You're asking me about the difference between a tree which has yellow lemons or a lemon tree which is yellow.
Yellow in colour, not brown.
So it's a yellow tree.
It's a yellow tree.
Yes, I think we would pronounce that slightly differently using different stress. If you wanted to stress the fact that there was a tree which had yellow lemons, you would say a yellow lemon tree.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you wanted to stress the fact that there was a lemon tree and that tree was yellow, you might say a yellow lemon tree. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, although it's not so clear as other examples I can think of. Obviously, I don't think in real life there is a lemon tree that is yellow. But if a child, for example, drew a lemon tree on paper and used a yellow pen or a yellow crayon to do it, then it would be a yellow lemon tree. Yeah. So you would stress. They would change the stress depending on if you were emphasizing the tree or the lemon with the color yellow. And with compound nouns like that, you would usually stress the first word if those two words are in isolation. For example, lemon tree, apple tree, cherry tree. Cereza. cherry tree. So you'd stress the first word. But there is a difference in stress, isn't there, Reza, between compound nouns like lemon tree and adjectives and nouns. Can you think of any examples where the stress might change?
Yes, some compound nouns, in other words, it's just one word. For example, a greenhouse, un invernadero, a whiteboard, una pizarra blanca, an English teacher, that's a person who teaches English. They might be English, but they might be American or Australian or Spanish. An English teacher. Or a dark room. A dark room is a room where you develop photographs. If you remember in the past, before the digital age, you had to develop the film. Well, you did that in a dark room. So those are compound nouns. They're one noun, but made up of two words. We take dark and we take room. We put them together, a dark room. And you stress the first part.
Yes, but if you're talking about adjectives and nouns, the stress changes to the second part. So greenhouse becomes greenhouse, a house which is green. Whiteboard in a classroom becomes whiteboard, just a board that happens to be white.
Yeah. Could be, for example, a surfboard.
Yeah, surfboard, yeah.
Yeah, I have a white surfboard. I have a white board. Yeah.
And English teacher, a person who teaches English, if you change the stress to English teacher, then the teacher comes from England. Okay? So an English teacher teaches English, but an English teacher happens to be English. And with dark room, you could change the stress, and then you have a dark room, a room that has not a lot of light, that doesn't have a lot of light, so it's very dark. It's muy oscuro. That's a dark room. So when you change the stress, you change the meaning. And of course, Yellow Lemon Tree is a fairly famous song by Fool's Garden. Lovely song with lyrics, and we've included the YouTube video in the show notes over at inglespodcast.com/198. So why not go over to the website and listen to Fool's Garden's version of Yellow Lemon Tree? And thank you very much, Xavi, for that question.
Moving on, we have more feedback in the form this time of an email from Isabel Chamorro. Shall I read out the email, Craig?
Yes, please.
It's in Spanish. Buenas tardes. Tengo una duda y a pesar de que he consultado con gente que creía que me la podían resolver, no ha sido así. La duda es sobre las pasivas impersonales en inglés. Con la fórmula it is said o it is believed, seguida de la oración that, no tengo problema. El problema es con la segunda fórmula de las impersonales. Creo que tengo claro que cuando se refieren a presentar a futuro, se usa to más infinitivo.
And then Isabel gives some examples in her email. Oración en presente. People in Greece think that bulls represent strength. Los toros. Change to passive. It is thought in Greece that bulls represent strength. Or bulls are thought to represent strength in Greece. And Isabel gives two examples of the future impersonal passive, oración en futuro. The first one, it is reported that the president will overcome his health problems soon. Second one, the president is reported to overcome his health problems soon. So Isabel says, hasta aquí, claro como el agua. As clear as day, perhaps we'd say in English. El problema lo tengo con el tiempo pasado. For example, it is believed that robbers have committed the biggest robbery of the year. Robbers are believed to have committed the biggest robbery of the year. And Isabel continues, os estaría muy agradecida si pudierais ayudarme. Soy seguidora de vuestro cuaderno y de vuestros podcasts y creo que sois unos profesores magníficos. Thank you, Isabel.
Thanks.
Por eso me atrevo a preguntaros mi duda. Muchísimas gracias anticipadas y cordial saludo.
Okay, so that was what Isabel asked. That was her question. If you want to read it, you can go to the show notes and read it because it's quite a lot of specific information to take in, to absorb. But we think we understand her question, and we're going to have a go at answering it.
What does have a go mean?
Have a go is
try
we're
it.
going to try. Yeah. We'll try and answer it. Let's see if we've understood you, Isabel. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Impersonal passives. Perhaps some of you don't know what that is. You might not know the term. An impersonal passive is often used to report news or to give views, maybe. And as Isabel rightly said, there are two types of structures. I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a sentence in the active and then I'll change it to an impersonal passive. So here's an active verb. People say, so that's active. People is the subject and they say. People say that love is the most important thing.
I agree with that.
Yep, me too. There's an active verb. Now, people say it's typical to change that to an impersonal passive because it's giving views. A lot of people say that, or people in general say that. So we can say, it is said that, which in Spanish is se dice que. It is said that love is the most important thing. That's an impersonal passive, using it plus that. And as Isabel said, una oración, or in English, a clause. It plus that plus a clause. It is said that, then a clause. Love is the most important thing.
So is it necessary to have that in there? Can you say, it is said love is the most important thing?
Right? It's very typical, isn't it, to leave out the word that. Mm-hmm. So that is optional. As Isabel also said, there's the second way of doing it, using an infinitive. So people say that love is the most important thing. Version 2 of the impersonal passive. Love is said to be the most important thing. In that case, I made love the subject, not it. Love is the subject. Love is said. That's my passive. And instead of that, I use an infinitive to be the most important thing. So that's a subject plus an infinitive. Those are the two ways of making an impersonal passive. As we said, it's typical for reporting news or giving views. So it's often associated with what we call reporting verbs. The same verbs which are used for reported speech. Verbs such as say, believe, claim, report, rumor, know, think, expect, suggest. Can you think of any more, Craig?
Well, there's recommend, advise, which is aconsejar, warn, W-A-R-N, advertir, ask is another one, understand, feel, allege, you may not know, A-L-L-E-G-E, which is afirmar in Spanish, to allege something, consider, presume, which is asumir or suponer, affirm, state, to state something, declarar, or accept. All of those reporting verbs are common.
Let's give you a couple more sentences to practice the two different forms before we get to Isabel's big question. Imagine this sentence. It wasn't known that arsenica, is a poison in the past. Now we know it, but in the past, people didn't know it. It wasn't known. That's our impersonal passive using it plus that plus a clause. Or we can leave out that if we want. It wasn't known arsenic is a poison in the past. I left out that. Or we can use the infinitive and make arsenic the subject of a passive verb plus the infinitive. Arsenic wasn't known to be a poison in the past.
And that's speaking about the past, so that's the past impersonal passive. Let's look at a present example, presente. So it is generally considered that undressing in public is unacceptable. I would agree with that. It's not acceptable to undress in public, so it is generally considered, that undressing in public is unacceptable. Or with the infinitive, undressing in public is generally considered to be unacceptable. Again, undressing in public is generally considered to be unacceptable. Examples of the present impersonal passive.
Now, let's raise the level a bit. So far, so good. You can use that plus a clause, oración, clause, or you can use an infinitive. But here's the thing. There's more than one type of infinitive. I think this is what Isabel's question is centered around. Compare these different examples. First of all, it is rumored that the married celebrity, el personaje famoso, casado, it is rumored that the married celebrity has a lover. She lives in Monaco. So it is rumored is our impersonal passive. And here we're using a subject and a verb, a clause, with that the married celebrity has a lover. Or we could do it with the infinitive, the other way, make the married celebrity the subject, and then a passive verb, then infinitive, right? The married celebrity is rumored to have, infinitive, a lover. She lives in Monaco. Okay, so far so good. But what about these two sentences? They're slightly different. First version. It is rumored that the married celebrity had a lover.
That's past.
Had a lover in the past. But she left him years ago. So now they're not together. In the past, he had a lover, but that's all over now. That's quite easy as well, isn't it? It is rumored that, plus our clause, the married celebrity had a lover. Okay, that's easy. The tricky bit is with the infinitive. If we want to do it the other way, the infinitive, listen to this. The married celebrity is rumored to have had a lover, but she left him years ago. To have had.
So immediately I see here two haves. To have had. Why are there two haves there?
Well, this is the perfect infinitive. It's not the normal infinitive. Everybody knows the infinitive, right? To go, to run, to eat, to sleep, to have. But this is the perfect infinitive to represent that the action happened in the past, but using an infinitive. Mm-hmm. And it's quite easy to do. It's simply the auxiliary verb have plus the past participle. So let me give you an example. To have eaten, to have loved, to have run, to have traveled, to have listened, to have heard, or to have had. Have here happens to be the main verb as well as the auxiliary verb. To have had. Haber tenido in Spanish. Haber tenido.
And notice here that the have, the infinitive have, the perfect have, does not change when you're speaking about a third person because you're speaking about the married celebrity. So he, but we don't say has had. We keep it as have. It doesn't change. He is rumoured to have had a lover.
If you use the normal infinitive there, to have, it's wrong. It's wrong. You have to use the perfect infinitive to show that they were lovers, but that's in the past. But now they're not.
And I think that's where Isabel was getting confused with that perfect infinitive.
Yes, maybe, but we can take it up one level more. There's an even more confusing thing coming up.
There's more?
There's more confusion.
Whoa, there's more.
That's kind of logical, isn't it? Because if I say to you that it is rumored or the married celebrity is rumored, well, if I say it's rumored, in other words, people talk about it now, it's rumored, people talk about it. If I want to show that they're talking about something which happened in the past,
you have to go back to the past.
And that's why I have to use the perfect infinitive, right? But compare these two situations. Here's where we get a little bit more complicated still.
And controversial, because we're speaking about Lady Di or Lady D.
What about this? It is still widely believed today that Lady Diana was pregnant when she died.
That's not true. Is that true? Do you believe that?
We don't know. But it is widely believed. A lot of people do believe it. A lot of people believe it.
Do you believe it?
I don't know. I have no strong opinion either way. Who knows? We'll never know.
So it's rumored.
It's rumored. It's widely believed. That means a lot of people believe it, if I add the adverb widely, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It is still today, it's still widely believed today that Lady Diana was pregnant when she died. That's our impersonal passive with it. But we could do it with the infinitive, right? Lady Diana is still widely believed today to have been pregnant when she died. So we've got there our perfect infinitive. We have auxiliary have plus the past participle of the main verb to be, so been, to have been. Our perfect infinitive, remember, is to have eaten, to have run, to have listened, to have traveled, or to have been. If I say to be pregnant, that's wrong. Because no, we're talking about a rumor today, but it's about the past. So we have to use the perfect infinitive, to have been.
So again, it's that have that's putting it in the past.
Yeah.
The perfect have.
But here's where the complication comes now. What about this? It was widely believed. It was, but not now. Imagine it was widely believed at the time, 20 years ago, that Lady Diana was pregnant when she died. Okay, that one's easy to understand. It was widely believed, our impersonal passive, at the time that Lady Diana was pregnant when she died. That's no problem. The problem is, well, actually, it's not a problem. The complication, let's say, is when we want to do it with the infinitive, because there's two possibilities.
Ooh.
We can say Lady Diana was, so our reporting verb is in the past, was widely believed, not is, this time, was widely believed at the time to have been pregnant. Yeah, I said that before. Or to be pregnant when she died. Both versions are correct there. I can use the perfect infinitive, to have been, or I can use the normal infinitive, to be, and there's no difference in meaning.
So is it correct to say that you can use the normal infinitive, to be pregnant, because the first verb is in the past?
That's exactly it.
Gotcha.
If the reporting verbs, remember, words like understand, report, claim, say, believe, rumored. If that verb is in the past, it was widely believed, it was rumored, it was said, it was thought in the past, then if you use the infinitive, it doesn't matter, da igual, if the infinitive is perfect infinitive, to have been, to have eaten, to have run, or normal infinitive, to run, to be, to eat. You can use both.
I think that's clear. And remember, Isabel, we have these example sentences written in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/198. Could you give just one more example?
Yeah, what about this? It has been universally accepted that listening to these podcasts improves your English. Or Craig with an infinitive?
Listening to these wonderful podcasts has been universally accepted to improve your English. Infinitive.
And have you noticed that quite often you use an adverb with these impersonal passives, with the reporting verb? It is generally considered, it is still widely believed, or it has been universally accepted. It's very typical to put an adverb before the reporting verb.
And again, to repeat what we said earlier, this is quite a common construction with news, isn't it? Especially when it's quite formal. You're being quite formal here, and news tends to be impersonal because it's not the opinion of the person reading the news, and it's a very general statement. Okay, if you have any further questions on the passive, then please contact us. And we are getting closer and closer to celebrating our 200th episode of this podcast, and we would like your help. Could you please send us a voice message in which you ask us anything except to do with English. So please, no grammar questions, no passive questions, no vocabulary or pronunciation questions. Just ask us anything you would like to know about us or about Belfast or London or Britain or anything you like whatsoever. So to send your voice messages, please go to speakpipe, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, or send us an email to reza@belfastreza@gmail.com,
or to craig@inglespodcast.com.
We would love to include you and celebrate with you on episode 200.
Thanks to our gold sponsor, Bruno. If you remember, he's the guy who does the walking tours of Copenhagen through his company, CopenhagenWalkingTour.com. He does tours of castles as well as walking, and he does them in English or Spanish. Also, he does a tour in Rio, in the favela, and that's led by local guides. So don't worry, it's perfectly safe. The local guides know what they're doing. They know where they're going. And it also helps the local community to improve on their daily needs. It generates a bit of money for them. Go to Bruno's website to find out more. So the favela walking tour info is on favelawalkingtour.com.br. That's BR for Brazil.
And thank you, Bruno, for being a gold sponsor on Patreon and your generous and continued support. And of course, thank you to all of our patrons who are kindly supporting us and helping us to transcribe the episodes. That's Beatriz, Pedro, Maite, Lara, Rafa, Nestor Garcia Mañez from nestorgm.com, the podcast about astronomy, Luces Extrañas, Maria Gervati, Lorena, Sara, Carlos, Mamen, Juan, Cory Finneran, Miren, José Luis, Agus, Mariel Reidemen, Manuel, Jorge, Raúl, Rafael, Manuel Tarazona, José Manuel, Juan Carlos, Pilar, Gambate Blog, Ana Giovanna, Igor, Ignacio, Kieran, Carlos, Pachi, Ana, and of course our latest patrons. Welcome to the program, Dana, Constantin, and Marina Ortiz Peña.
If you want to find out more about the Patreon program, go to patreon.com/Inglespodcast. And if you sign up, you will get all the transcriptions which have been transcribed by Angelica Bello from Madrid.
And also we will give you free a PDF and MP3 Pass a Job interview course that we completed last year. And thank you to Patricia Alonso, who continues working hard to transcribe episodes for you. We now have available for your reading and listening pleasure episodes 1 to 18 and 131 to 142. Reza, what are we speaking about next week?
You want me to tell the listeners what we're speaking about next week?
No.
That's it.
Do not tell them.
That's exactly the answer.
We're speaking about no and not. When do you use no in English and when do you use not? So join us next week. Until then, thanks for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.